After writing 2 transformational books myself and supporting many other beings to do the same, I've become enthralled by the deep and mysterious magic that's activated when we choose to say yes to ourselves and commit to the book writing journey. Of course, we want to inspire change and new perspectives in our readers, but the transformation that happens as an author, both throughout the writing process and by actually releasing your book into the world, is surprisingly potent. I know I've been blindsided in the most disruptive and delicious ways by some of the changes my books have brought into my life. Writing a book is like casting a spell. Although we can never be completely sure what's going to be unleashed during the process, we choose to do it anyway. This Unbound one is a heroic journey. Each book has the potential to be a magical portal, a doorway to a new world, both for you and your reader. Each book has a very specific medicine that it's here to share with us. And each book gives us the opportunity to alchemize the magnificent imperfection of our experience into gold. The truth is that anyone can write a book. We could all get a few thousand words down and put them together. But what fascinates me is what happens when we allow the book writing process to go deeper. When we say, fuck it, get naked and dive way down beneath the surface. Letting go of the shoulds and any need to be acceptable, sensible, or approved of. What fascinates me is what happens when we make ourselves fully available to being transformed by the very act of writing a book. This is Unbound Writing, and this is the process we'll be exploring together here in the Unbound Writers Club. I'm Nicola, author and founder of the Unbound Press, and I help magical beings to write the transformational book they're really here to write at this time. I'm your guide here in the Unbound Writers Club, and the aim of this podcast is to help you to feel supported, encouraged, activated as you embark on your book writing journey. Whether you're a first-time author or have many books out in the world, my hope is that you will find something here to inspire you. Let's dive in. Hello, magical one. It's Nicola here, and this week, I have something special for you because over the summer, we are diving into the Unbound Archives, bringing you, revisiting some of our most powerful and beneficial episodes to help you really get into momentum with your writing and get to a place where you can complete your book, because your medicine, your magic is so very needed in the world. So in this first episode of the Unbound Archives, this mini series, we are exploring how to share your story even when it feels terrifying, because I know this is something that can get in the way of us even starting to write our books. So without further ado, let's dive in and talk about how to get your story out into the world. Okay, so welcome to this month's episode of Unbound Women. With me, Nicola Humber. I am the founder of the Unbound Press, and I am joined by 3 of our magical authors today: Victoria Smisek, Natalie Farrell, and Zoe Foster, who is here with us for the first time, which is very exciting. Hopefully be on many more episodes of Unbound Women, which we have these kind of discussions, explorations, monthly-ish. Everything is ish in the world of Unbound. And this month we are diving into how to share your story. So if you're feeling called to share your story through your book or actually in any other way, then this conversation will hopefully be helpful for you, because it's particularly around how to share it even when it feels terrifying, and there are all sorts of fears and doubts coming up. So I'm sure we've all experienced that. I know I have. But before we dive in, it would be great for each of you to just introduce yourself a little bit and share where you are on your kind of author writing journey right now. So Vicky, do you want to go first, as you're first on my screen?
Yeah, I can go first. So so my book, Falling Awake, A Heroine's Journey, is 1 year old on Friday.
Wow.
And I just realized that yesterday, actually.
That's
I went
cool.
back, I thought, I'm sure it's coming up. And I went back through our text messages, Nicola, to see the date that you'd said. Congratulations. And it's the 29th of April. So that's been out in the world for a year. And I'm currently writing the sequel, which I'm not entirely sure about the title at the moment. I thought I knew it, and then, you know, in that Unbound way, kind of disappeared again. So we'll see. Yeah.
We'll see. And just to say, your books are very, they're memoir based.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very memoir. Very memoir based.
There's a lot of your story in there.
It's a lot of self-disclosure. Yes.
Yeah. Fantastic.
So very relevant for this topic today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Vicky. Thank you. Natalie, do you want to go next?
Hello, everybody. So I'm Natalie, and I refer to myself as a cosmic songbird. And I'm here to amplify the light that I see in the world, to kind of amplify the human experience. To translate the light that I see. So my first book, published last year, and it's called Light the Way. And it's a mixture of my story that was woven into the spiritual awakening kind of lessons that I felt was missing. When I was going through my spiritual awakening, I felt that I needed that kind of big sister's hand to hold on to. So that's what the book goes through, with some meditations and reflection time. It's definitely from a transition to transformation book. Yeah, I'm not writing my second book, but of course I'm living. So perhaps it's just writing itself.
You're living your second book right now. Yeah.
Yes.
It all lands when it needs to. Amazing.
Exactly.
Thanks, Natalie. Good to have you here.
So good to be here.
And Zoe.
Hi, everyone. I'm Zoe. And what to say, really? I am an artist. I'm a writer. I'm a creator. All those things. And those are all labels as well that I've just come to be able to say, really, in the last couple of years, probably. And yet I've been those things my whole life. I just didn't allow it. So my passion is really about embodied expression and allowing all of that in all of our channels, not just the verbal, which our world kind of clings onto. But really finding ourselves in the verbal space through all parts of our being, spiritual, physical, mental, emotional. But it's just even more than that. Those words just don't seem to kind of really do it justice. And one of the ways that I love to do this is to get on some giant canvas and just tune in to the energetics that I want to let flow through me, and that's what comes out. I don't think about it in my mental brain. I don't plan ahead. I just let it come through. And that's been such a new way of doing things for me in terms of, my life years. I'm 42. And honestly, this way of expressing in its fullest has come through in the last few years. Nicola knows that before my Unbound book, which is coming out this year, it's written in the stars. Before that, I was very dedicated to writing another book, which was extremely kind of academic and you know, kind of like a female Joe Dispenza, if you like. And, you know, I put everything into it. I put everything into a book proposal and all the rest of it. And it just wasn't, I felt like once I'd done the book proposal and the sample chapters, that was it. I didn't need to do the rest because I knew it all. And coming to Unbound, it was really just it was like really like coming home. It's such a cliche, but it was really like coming home and actually honoring myself and how I want to create and how I want to share that creation with the world as well in a way that just feels so aligned. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Very excited about your book, Zoe. And can I just say, Zoe is responsible for this magnificence behind me. This incredible artwork, activation portal, which is called Carly Unbound. So yeah, I love having her there behind me. And just for myself, actually, in terms of sharing my story, yes, I'm the founder of the Unbound Press, but I'm also an author myself. So have written 3 books so far, and particularly with the first 2, Heal Your Inner Good Girl and Unbound, was sharing quite a bit of my story within those, and a little bit in the third one, Unbound Writing, as well, I guess. I just tend to weave my stories through my writing. So this is definitely something that's come up for me personally. So I'd love to dive in and just start with the question, you know, for each of you, when you were thinking about writing your book and sharing either elements or a lot of your story, what are the kind of things that came up for you around it? And whoever wants to dive in first with that. Oh, no one.
Yeah, I would like to dive in. And I think just coming from the background of the book that I was writing to the one that I'm writing now, which is so much more aligned in every way. The book that I was writing, you know, a lot of stuff came up for me around sharing stuff from my childhood, because obviously, even if my parents never read it, there's always that anxiety there. You know, I share stuff on social media. They kind of like follow me. And I never know how much they follow. I don't know who else is in that situation. So yeah, there's a lot of anxiety about, you know, what they're going to think of me, whether they think I'm, you know, kind of judging them for like my childhood and certain elements and, you know, the challenges it brought up for me. And there's a lot of stuff as well around the mother wound and my mother. And when it came to actually coming to the book that I am creating now, it feels much safer in a way, because it's less direct. I'm not laying it out in a kind of story, you know, where this happened and then it had these effects and so on. It's poems, it's reflections. So there are definitely bits of prose about my life and about, you know, kind of how I have processed that or am processing that, general philosophy of the world, that kind of thing. And then there are meditations as well, transmutations, where I take myself, primarily I take myself, but anybody who chooses to do these for themselves as well, take myself from that kind of space of, you know, for example, everything feels really dark right now. What do I do with that? How do I get through this without just trying to fix something or trying to put a band-aid on it? How do I let myself process and come back to the light again? And as you do that, I'm writing down, or channeling as it were, when I write these, I'm writing down the things that come to mind. So some of those are extremely personal. In fact, they're all extremely personal. Yeah. You know, I can't think of examples off the top of my head right now, but you can imagine if you just sit and say out loud, this is what I'm feeling right now, you know, and you swear and you want to kind of rage at the universe, and you're writing it all down because you're acknowledging it. And then you begin to just gently and lovingly move through all of that. So you're actually looking at all of that. You're seeing it on the page. I'm seeing it on the page. And when I see that, sometimes I think, gosh, I can't share this because it's too personal. And then I know that I have to share it because I'm not the only one. I know I'm never going to be the only one who's feeling those things. It might feel like it in the moment, but I know ultimately I'm not. So this process of actually working much more in alignment with with putting it out there in a much more integral way. I'm not putting it out to shock people or to kind of jump myself ahead to get more likes. I'm putting it out because it feels right and it feels in alignment with my being. And that's what makes it safe, in my opinion.
Yeah, like inviting the reader or whoever's connecting with the book like into your process. Sharing that with them.
Yeah,
really powerful. Thanks, Zoe.
Yeah, thank you, Zoe. I love that, and it's kind of streamlining into what I was when I'm feeling into this. It came, sharing my story happened. So obviously I started writing the book when I was 40, but sharing my story really actually happened 10 years before that. And that was the beginning of it, where I just recovered from my bulimia, and I trained to be a yoga teacher, and I wanted to share my story for exactly what Zoe's saying, because I knew that I wasn't the only one that would be going through on, the pre and the aftermath of the recovery. So as always, it was something that I was being guided to do. I had to share it, not necessarily to help others, but to raise the awareness and to normalize, the process of the recovery, and to show people that there was life after that. So that was where I really started. I went to a magazine with that, and it got published in Yoga magazine, and it was interesting. I think I can share this. It was interesting because they were happy to publish it, but it's a very delicate subject. So it would have depended on how I had written the article, which was kind of interesting. Because it got published, but it is delicate, but it needs to be heard. Yeah, it needs to be out there. So that was interesting, because maybe that comes up for people when they want to share their story, that it has to be the right platform, I suppose, the right place, the right time, with the right resonance. Yeah. So that was how I started sharing my story. And when it came into sharing the book, as I said, I had these 10 words, and they led people through a spiritual awakening and a process. And then the stories and the right stories from my learnings just started to be attracted to that word. And that's how it evolved. I never really questioned actually whether my parents or my sister or my family would, because I really am a big believer that there is the healing comes through the expression. So once you're expressing something, then the family member will heal as well, and at their own time. Mine was very much an evolution of the story between me and my dad, and how that's unfolded. And now we're so close, and everything is great. So there's a lot of beauty in the unraveling of being being truthful.
Gorgeous. I love that you trusted that, Natalie. And there's something there, like your experience with the magazine around, like we can feel, others can make us feel that we need to moderate our story in some way, and like trusting our story, like in the full expression of it, and like you say, finding the right platform.
Yeah. And, I've had one or two people say to me that have read the book, I didn't realize that you had bulimia. I'm in my recovery. Thank you so much. That's the other aspect to sharing.
Exactly.
I can really resonate with that actually as well, Natalie, that whole process of beginning to share, because when I began to share, it was really about my healing crisis and going through topical steroid withdrawal, which funnily enough has just been on the BBC News recently, this week or last week. But when I had it, when I was going through it, Nobody was talking about it. Doctors were denying that it was a thing at all. And it was a very, very lonely time. And when I started to share, of course, I had to be very careful where I did so, because there was so much backlash just ready to come in, about whether I chose to use this prescribed medication, whether I was using it wrongly, all of the things basically. And as I've shared more and more of that, and obviously as it's kind of opened up, the world has begun to realize that it is a thing, I've been able to share more openly, and that is part of the healing process as well, obviously. But right at the beginning, you've got to do it incrementally, I think.
Yeah. Thanks, Zoe. Vicky, how was it?
Yeah, I feel, I can relate to everything that both of you have said so far, and feels like there were so many different stages to it. And very much initially, when I was writing my story, I just knew I had to write it for myself first and foremost, even though I already kind of knew that I wanted to, had the intention of writing a book and getting it out into the world. But as I was writing it, I think I was doing a lot of just pretending, really, that that I was just writing it for myself. And I think that really helped me, because I think I might have, I think if I always knew that it was going to be out there right from the beginning, because I wasn't ready to face then the challenges of that and the fears of that, I had to get to the end of my story before I was ready to then face those questions of, right, do you really want to do this now, or is this enough? Can you just stop there and just keep it all safe? And have you not just got enough out of this for yourself, for your own personal development? But it was, I was absolutely driven to share it, largely because I'd been, a lot of my writing journey was reading other women's stories, and just, I just knew that this kind of idea that actually, when we write a transformational book, which is transformational to ourselves in the writing of it, essentially healing, when we heal through our writing, and then when we share that writing, the other women or other people who read it will heal too. And so when I got to that stage of actually then, getting in touch with you, Nicola, and then going through those stages of actually, preparing to put it out there and doing the editing and everything, I just kind of kept that mantra really, in my head, that I had I don't want to say it was like a duty, like a sense of duty, but I knew that it was in service, that I was acting in service of, by sharing my story. Because I knew, just like you said, Natalie, I knew that so much of what I had written about was not just my story. I knew that it would be other people's stories as well. And I think the main thing, actually, I was talking about this just with a friend just 2 nights ago. I was actually reading some of my book out loud to her. She had asked, by the way. It's not just
here's some of my books.
Come around for a cup of tea, right? I'm going to read to you. Great book. And she said, you are so brave. She said, I just can't believe that you would, put all that out there. And I said, well, yes, yes, there is a certain amount of courage that was involved, but the main thing that I wanted to, the main message, I think, if there's one message that I hope that readers get from my book, is that we don't have to be ashamed of the things that have happened to us, or the choices that we've made, or just experiences that we've had. Because I know for me, that's what kind of kept me silent. And I don't just mean silent as in not sharing my story, but I mean silent as in really not being myself. For so much of my life, was shame. And so I thought, there's no better way of demonstrating that, I suppose, than actually putting all my story out there into the world. Say, okay, I'm not ashamed of any of this. And and I had been. So that was a big barrier for me to to overcome. And then just trust. The other aspect of that has been for me to absolutely trust, as I do with everything in my life, that I am divinely protected. And my book will only be read by the people that are meant to read it.
Mm.
And that might include then some of the people that I really don't want to read it. I have to trust that if that's how it's meant to be, that's how it's meant to be. And I'm not going to try and control that or censor that. I just sort of hand that over. It's like, I've written it, I've put it out there, I've done my bit, over to the universe.
Yeah.
See what happens next, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And get out of my way a bit with it, because it's not about me, not just about me.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Vicky. Yeah, there has to be like that sense of trust has come through in everything that, like, you know, each of you have shared, and I really feel that. And that kind of lack of attachment is like, okay, I'm trusting this. I'm writing it, like I very much experienced that myself. Like I was like, I'm just going to write this for me and what I feel called, like the stories I feel called to share. I'm going to trust that, write it for myself, and then having that lack of attachment, or aiming to have a lack of attachment about how it's received, and not controlling people, trying to control people's like interactions with the book, or you know how they experience it, which, you know, is often easier said than done. But what's coming through for me, I mean, Vicky, your background, you're a psychotherapist, so you're trained not to disclose, and like obviously that's part of your training, but it feels like as women we can kind of pick up this kind of conditioning, like where we are almost trained not to disclose or not to value our stories or our experience, and to moderate it, you know, as we said, in different ways, and like hold back and only share things that are nice and shiny. So I'd be curious to hear from each of you, you know, and this might feel like an obvious question, but I'm really interested to hear what you've got to say or how you respond. You know, what makes our stories so important and so powerful? And particularly maybe the like less shiny aspects of our stories. Why is it important to share them?
Can I jump right in? Oh my God.
You can.
I actually, so whilst Vicky was speaking, it really just brought home to me this whole need, and you guys maybe know this is a big part of what I do, about allowing ourselves to really express what is within to come out, because that is such an important part of the energy cycle. We can hold stuff about ourselves inside, in our brains, in our hearts, in our, you know, gut, wherever it is. And, you know, it can go round and round and round, and we can kind of know all of this stuff about ourselves, and we can kind of maybe internally accept it to a certain degree. But there's some kind of alchemy that happens when we actually express that out of ourselves. Even if we're not sharing it with the whole world, with the external world, or even with one other person, there's something about putting it out into a format where we can then read it back or see it visually back, reflected back towards ourselves. I don't know what that process really is. It's some kind of magic, honestly. But when we have that, we put it out, we put out our expression, and, you know, we kind of go through that whole surrendering process of really allowing it, and not allowing the editor to come online. And then when we come back to that space of kind of being able to just look or be in that expression that we've put out there, it's so healing. And it takes us to a whole other level of self-acceptance. And I've seen this again and again and again and again in the people I work with, but myself as well. You know, when I'm writing something and I read it back, I come back to it maybe a few days later or whenever, or when I'm painting or when I'm doing the sacred expression sessions, you know, and it's just, you have that soul expression reflected back at you, then it kind of opens up whole new dimensions of self-acceptance, honestly. And also that knowing that you're never the only person. You're never the only person who has experienced these feelings or these situations or whatever it is. So that's this part that I really wanted to speak to here, was that magic in having that expression out there and reflected back at you.
Yeah, the alchemy. Love it. Thanks, Zoe.
And I don't want to take any of the magic out of what you've just said, Zoe, because, we need magic, and, it's just, yeah, incredible. But, on a very kind of psychological level, I know that the brain processes information differently when it thinks it than when it hears it. So I think there's also that goes on as well, is that actually when we have somehow externalized what we have been internalizing, probably, and holding in most of our lives, when we then look at that, whether it's in written, word form, or in art form, or, whatever way that we have now externalized it and expressed it, when we look back at that, the brain will process it differently. And that's a lot of when that healing takes place.
Yeah.
So, which of course is completely magical.
Yeah.
But also, just to speak to that question a bit more, Nicola, that, why is it so important? And for me, it just comes down to just kind of one word, like authenticity. Because, I think we have been so conditioned to be inauthentic. And to not be in our truth, and to not dare to kind of be in our shadow side, and to express, the difficulties, and just to kind of pretend we're okay when we're not okay, and to not, to not process our wounds, to not heal from our traumas. There's so much of that. And so why it is so crucial is that we just express that authenticity and that rawness, because it's real. It's real. And there's nothing more important than just being authentic and being real and being okay with that. And and knowing that when we're okay with that, then we give others permission to be okay with that as well. And God knows the world needs all of that it can get, I think, right now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's huge.
Yeah, I feel that sort of giving permission, because there's two things that come up for me in this question is to start conversation. That through writing my interpretation of aspects, because there's snippets of the relationship or the disconnect that I had with my dad. It was my story. And he's reading the book, and he said to me, I have, there's something that's not, I can't remember his words, but he just said, not a bone to pick, but this is actually what happened. It was so soft the way he approached me. And so I really felt that through the expression, through me writing down my side of the story, has actually opened a portal for him to express his side of the story. So we're starting new conversations. And I said, well, it's my interpretation. Thank you for giving me the truth. And then the other thing is there was the exchange between you and I, Nicola, when I had given you the first draft. And you said, okay, but I want to hear more of your story. And that was when those 3 words, go all in, which I always write with capitals now when I'm writing that. When, that came out, I was like, that was like a profound experience for me. And I think there was a month between the first draft and then obviously the draft that got published coming to you. And, it was a real revivification, a revisiting of my story as an artist and as a singer. And that's when No More Numbing Down came out. And I'm shivering all over as I say it, because reverberant voices, this is what I'm doing now, is releasing reverberant voices, releasing the voice. And my work is just totally and utterly coming into alignment. And so there's so much power to anyone who is live here and listening and rewatching this, as to whatever way you're going to share your story, because you begin to release the vibrations that have been stuck within your cells, body, your ancestors, your own family. It's so deep. It is, it's profound. It's really incredible.
Feeling that. And that piece around, other people who have been part of our story, like we all have our own experience and we all have our own version of events, you know, and what feels true to us. So I think it's so important that we write and we own the fact that we're writing from our own perspective, and it's not about like, this is, you know, a blanket statement of how it was. It's like, well, this is how I experienced it, and then obviously other people have experienced it differently, and that's all perfect. What was coming through? Oh, just the piece about, yeah, I'm always a big fan of including more of kind of your personal story in the book. It wasn't an issue with Vicky, because it's like, it's all your story. It was my dream.
Well, it wasn't an issue by the time it got to you, but before, there was definitely a stage where I thought I was done.
Yeah.
And I think I've shared this before in one of these calls. So I was reading another memoir of, you know, by somebody, and after reading her memoir, I just, you know, which I thoroughly enjoyed and got totally engrossed in, but I was left with this slightly this niggle of like, you're still holding back.
Yeah.
Like, you've been censoring yourself, and reading her memoir gave me the courage to go all in. Like you said, I love that, Natalie, you know, that just no, why am I still holding back? You know, that completely sort of takes away from the whole message. So by the time it got to you, it was uncensored.
So I mean, the invitation to anyone listening to this is, yeah, I think to include or to bring through more of your story and your writing, or, you know, whatever you're creating, then perhaps feels comfortable, and to know that that's where the magic like happens. That's where the gold is, like in your story. And this question's coming up for me, like, as we come towards the end of this conversation. Do you feel it gets easier to share your story the more you do it?
I absolutely do. There's always there's always new layers of stuff. And, you know, for example, one of the things that I've come up against is like, how much do I allow myself to swear? Because honestly, like, some days I'm pretty sweary and I'm okay with that. And it depends who I'm with as well. Like, if I'm talking to people, or if I'm writing on the page or on the screen, whatever it is. And then there are other days where I'm like, actually, I don't feel like that's right for me today. And I don't know whether that's me censoring myself, or actually it's just more in alignment with my kind of energy at that time. So there's always something, I feel, you know, that we're kind of exploring and questioning about. Do I want to say that? Why am I saying that? Why, like, what's the point of saying that? And yeah, there's definitely elements still of my whole story that I maybe don't feel ready to share with the entire world, because it just feels too raw in some way, or there's a question as to whether it needs to be shared, actually. Like, what's the benefit to me and also to other people? You know, I don't believe in just splurging, like has been there was a kind of a trend on social media to just, you know, a few years ago, to just kind of go on a live and go, blah, this is my life right now. I don't believe in that. I do believe in being in integrity with yourself. And that doesn't mean censoring at all.
Yeah, that's such a great distinction. Thanks, Zoe.
Yeah, for me, it definitely gets easier. Yeah, I totally agree with Zoe. There's so many more layers, because, of course, the more you vocalize, then the more you heal your own stuff, and then, you know, you can share more. And yeah, I totally hear what you're saying as well, Zoe. I love that, you know, that is it right to share, or there's the right time to share? Thinking about others as well, if it's a sensitive subject, or that hasn't fully been expressed. But yeah, I love encouraging others to share their story, because there's stories.
Way we connect, isn't it?
Stories. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Thanks, Natalie.
Yeah, I feel like I'm sort of in a process at the moment where I'm getting ready to maybe sort of face that next level of sharing, and that is around audiobook, which we've spoken a little bit within the community, Nicola, and that actually the importance of actually then putting our actual voices out there, never mind our words, great that we can put our words out into the world, but actually taking it one step further, to the next level, and actually sharing our voices and the power and the potency of that. And so, I'm just kind of aware at the moment of how that feels, and in terms of it sort of getting easier. And also as I'm writing my next book sort of simultaneously and attempting to sort of write about, a bit like you were saying, Natalie, a sensitive issue, and needing to tread carefully, and but because I have this sort of first book behind me of like, no, that's given me the confidence and again the integrity, like you say, Zoe, to be able to, no, it's fine, and this is just my perspective, this is just my truth. I'm not saying this is how it is for everybody. This is my experience, and I'm pretty sure it's lots of other people's experience as well. And so, let's go there. Let's talk about, let's speak about the unspeakable.
I love that.
I'm all for that, which of course is what therapy is all about, what psychotherapy is all about, encouraging people to speak about the unspeakable. So, and if I can't do that myself, then what's going on.
Yeah. Thanks, Vicky. I mean, I feel it gets easier, definitely. Like we expand our capacity to be able to share and to trust our stories, and like to trust the call to share whatever it is we're feeling called to share. And also sometimes I get sideswiped and taken by surprise. Like it can be something quite innocuous. I think, why am I feeling so like vulnerable, or why are these feelings come up around this particular thing? So it's interesting, like you say, the different layers of it. But certainly I think, the more we share, the more I wouldn't say necessarily feel comfortable, but we cultivate that sense of trust more. Yeah. Oh, what a juicy conversation. Thank you so much for joining me today. As we come to a close, it'd be great to hear from each of you how people can find you and connect with you and find out about what you've got going on. So who would like to go first with that?
Okay, so for me, everything is on my website. So it's farrell.co. And if you love being on Instagram, that's where I am most of the time. And my handle is at Natalie R Farrell _. But the connection there is on my website as well. So come and explore and have some fun.
Amazing. Thanks, Natalie.
I'd like to say what I've got going on, other than the things that I've already mentioned, is that I have magically turned my book into a retreat. And so I am running my first Heroine's Journey retreat in Portugal between the 23rd and the 30th of September. And all the information details for that are on my website, which is victoriasmisek.com. And if anybody wants any more information about that, or wants to take a look, then that would be great. I'd love to hear from you.
The magic that can happen when you write a book. What a fun. Amazing.
Yeah.
And Zoe?
Well, I think it would be remiss not to mention our collaboration.
Exactly. If you weren't going to mention it, I was. We're cooking up something special together.
Nicola and I are doing a workshop together called Express Unbound, of course, which is just perfect on this topic. And oh my goodness, it's about merging the visual and the verbal and just tuning into all of our expressive channels, honestly, and letting it all flow through. And it's going to be really fun and playful and just incredible. And when are we doing that? We're doing that on the 15th of May. So that's coming up quite soon, actually. And you can find the details of that on my website, which is zoekmfoster.com. And On Instagram, I'm at Zoe KM Foster. I've just started using Substack. I don't know if anybody else uses that, but I've got my podcast hosted there. Obviously, it goes out to all the usual channels. My Core Truths podcast, which have amazing conversations all about the really juicy stuff, the core truths on there. And yeah, I've actually on my Substack, which is zoekmfoster.substack.com, I think. I'm actually also just releasing the book. I'm calling it my failed book, the chapters from that, the book that I tried to write and get published and obviously wasn't the right way to go. So I'm releasing the chapters from that before my Unbound book comes out. So yeah.
Oh, so excited about Express Unbound and everything else that you've just talked about. Especially that we get to play together in that way. And if anyone wants to come along with that, it involves having a massive sheet of paper and just playing with the pastels on that and getting really messy. So it's online. So we'll put all the links to everything that people have talked about around below, wherever it goes, with this video, so that you can see them. Thank you all so much for joining today. Just as ever, such a rich and juicy conversation. And yeah, we'll be back again next month, hopefully, for another episode of Unbound Women. And if anything we've shared just sparks something off for you, please do ask questions, comment in the comments section, and yeah, we'd love to hear from you. But thanks so much.
Amazing. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.